Hello my friends. What I'm doing here is gluing up the flute body, and what I need to show you is the treatment that you have to do in preparation before you glue the two halves of the flute together. First thing that you do is drill the holes that's going to be the sound hole and the low pressure air hole. And what I made is a drilling jig to make it easy because I make a lot of flutes. And I'm using a 3/4 inch chamber. That's the inside diameter of the flute. Now this will be the air passageway, and I have it spaced at 1 inch apart, or at least the holes here are 1 inch. Now that's not critical, but you do need to have a horizontal run for the air for hitting the sounding hole. So I have it set at 1 inch apart, center to center. After I drill these out, it's going to leave me a 7/8 of an inch distance, and this 7/8 is the length of this dowel, and this will be glued in there to separate the low pressure chamber from the sounding tube. So this drilling jig that I made, I used a block similar, and I ran it on my router table and cut the same groove, and then I just took a 3/4 inch dowel, inserted that in here, and similar to this. But this one is glued in. Okay, then the holes that I drilled, I lined with brass tubes. And the reason for that is when you use this repeatedly, the drill bit is not gouging out the hole in the wood, making it larger. Okay, now to use this, I insert this in this end here. Goes all the way up to the stop, like that. And of course, the ends will be even. Okay, then I drill through the 4 holes, remove the piece. So that's roughed in. That gives me an idea to know where to cut. And these stops are cut to the length that will fit perfect in between. So this now is 7/8 of an inch long. Okay, now to dress the inside of this up, what I do is I take a chisel. This is a 1/4 inch chisel. And I open these holes up, I make them rectangular. So I'm going to cut this web out. And to do that, a little bit on each side, and just keep taking it down. And I'll try to square this off. And you see I'm cutting a little bit into the shoulder this direction. That will help square that when I'm carving the taper on this side. Okay, and I'll do the same to this one. And this is the low pressure area or chamber. And this back side here, it should be tapered to allow the air to flow gently or smoothly and less air turbulence. So I'm going to trim this in like this, and this angle is not critical, so I'm just eyeballing it. Okay, now this side is more critical, what I'm going to do with this. Now, this angle that I'm going to cut should be approximately, I don't know how I could show this, should be approximately 33 degrees. And I have this block made. It's not perfect, but the angle is. This will ride in the groove, and it holds this perpendicular to the airway. Okay, this angle here will guide my chisel at 33-degree angle. Now I'm going to set my chisel at this beginning edge right there. Once I have that marked or set at that point, I'm going to draw a line, a reference line right here. Okay, now to know how much I want to cut, I'm going to set this at about approximately 1/8 of an inch. So that's going to remove from here back 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use this as my guide. So when I remove the material, I'm going to start with just a nicking it. You can see this distance here. Just a small nick. Okay, then I just move this back just very little. And this will allow me, let's try to keep some light on this. This will allow me to just keep shaving just a little bit at a time. And this could be clamped so it won't move. And this should be the final layer. Okay, you can see this edge is very smooth, and that's what we want. Okay, close up. This edge, this leading edge here, is very important with making sound. So that's the critical part of this step. Okay, now that that's cleared, what I like to do is harden that inside edge up. And I'll do that by putting a drop of super glue on this surface. And I'm using this, it's CA glue. Okay, this is going to harden that surface. Then I like to use Insta-Set so I can keep working, and that hardens it almost immediately. The plug that we're going to use, I'm using Titebond 3, and that's a waterproof wood glue. And what I'm doing here is sealing the end grain of the plug, and I'm going to do it to both sides. And in the low pressure air chamber, which is this side. This will get moist from your breath, from the moisture in your breath. And I like to coat the inside of this and both sides, and this will make it waterproof on the inside. In addition to this, when I finish the flute, I'm going to use tung oil. I will submerse the flute completely in tung oil, and it'll cover the inside of that also. Okay, before we glue this in, one more thing that has to be done is the airway is going to be right in here for the mouthpiece. And this is going to be drilled after it's all together, but we need to know the location of this. So what I'm going to do to make the location is take my chisel and run this on the line. I'm just going to cut a small V groove in here. And I'll do this on both halves. Okay, now our plug, the spacer. We have to make sure that we block the airway so air won't escape around the plug. And if the distance isn't exact, I'm setting the leading edge to the air hole here. This side is flush with the sounding hole. Okay, now we're ready to glue the two halves together. Okay, now I'm going to line the mouthpiece end up right here. Now the plug at this point, we'll put those in register. The end's even. Now the far end, I'll take another plug and use this to register the hole. And then I'm going to use rubber banding as my clamp. Then this plug, once it's clamped, you can remove that. If not, it's going to be glued. Okay. That will be drilled later. Okay, now there may be glue that's squeezed out like this on the inside. What I do then is take an undersized dowel and I gently push this, and real careful, you don't want to move that block on the inside. Move right up to the block, then withdraw, and that will remove glue that would have squeezed in. Now the inside of this will be sanded, but the glue is going to be harder than the wood. So you want to remove as much glue that may have squeezed out on the inside as you can. It'll make the job a lot easier at that point. Now we let this set overnight and it's ready to turn on the lathe. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.